you very much for hanging in there online. We see lots of folks on there tonight. Really appreciate you all joining us here this evening. For everybody online and in person here at the JC Village, we're very excited to have this opportunity to have Keavin Hill, an individual whom I have known my entire life, speak to us this evening about land and demand and how real estate can be a freeing way for us to achieve financial security. Before we get started, I just want to thank everybody for coming to this presentation from the North Columbus JCs, a professional development night. We could not do this without all of you in attendance, so thank you very much. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Keavin and let him educate us for the evening. Thank you.
Do I need to use a mic or can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, because my wife says my voice doesn't, maybe she just can't hear me, right? So my name is Keavin Hill and I'm honored to be here tonight to speak to you. Most of the JCs that are here know me as the Senior Vice President of the foundation, which you started several years ago. But that's how you know me. So I want to tell you a little bit about me and who I am, but I want to tell you why I enjoy working with this group, and I'm honored to be able to talk to you because I'm very passionate about real estate. Real estate can make financially independent relatively easy if you follow the right direction. But not always do you get to talk to somebody about real estate that also has the same values and interest as I have. Whereas the JCs is a service-oriented group and I'm very service-oriented. So I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. So there's two sentences that mean a lot to me that I practice my life by every day. One is faith in God gives meaning and purpose to human life. The other is service to humanity is the best work of life. And everybody that's in this room and a lot of you that are online know those two sentences very well because they're the first and last sentence of your creed. So we align we're very similar in our alignment in life. Remember that we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So just give you a little past on my where I come from. I was born and raised in Pickaway County, born to June and Roger Hill. We farmed. We attended a church. We were a church-going family. And I learned to love Christ and I learned to serve. And some of the ways that I was able to serve through my years is through an elected official for many years. I served on several boards. I was very involved with my church. Got to go on several mission trips to Mexico and the Philippines and Belize and right here in Columbus. In the early 80s, I was introduced to the homeless community here in Columbus, and I started going to the camps that they had and taking blankets and food and supplies to them through the winter, which then turned into picking them up on Sunday morning and taking them to church for some service and clothes for the week and a nice meal. Started out hauling them back in my pickup truck, and then we went to a van and then a bigger van and then a bus, and eventually to a 80 passenger bus, hauling about between 150 and 200 fellas every week, which from the time Brandon was able to walk, would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go out on Sunday morning, and we would go serve the homeless community prior to going to our own church. after about, well, I got a little funny story just real quick. I was going to do this at the end, but I'll do it now. So as time went on, every single week was a lot. So my father and a friend of mine, Greg 30-acre, would come and fill in and drive for me on Sunday mornings to give us a Sunday off. And about 6:30 one Sunday morning, Greg calls me and he says, "Hey, your buses are on fire and it's melting into a big glob here on the side of 71. So he burned my bus down. But it was time to upgrade to an 80 passenger anyway, because we'd outgrown the 24 passenger. So at any rate, a little funny story there, but after 22 years of doing that every Sunday, I decided to hand those reins off. And I could talk to you all night about homeless, but I'm not going to. So we handed the reins off. I donated the bus to a church over in Hilliard that took that over. And I said to myself, I've served a lot. I'm going to take some time off, God. But that didn't get to happen because along came Katrina. Worst devastation we had seen. So I told my wife, I said, I've got to go. So we called the churches. We gathered up a semi-load of food and water and supplies. And I put my dozer and skid steer on a truck, gathered up 6 men, and we headed to Louisiana. We went as far as we could get to the disaster relief center down southern Louisiana. I'm not sure what town we got to first, but they saw the equipment we had and they said, we think that the roads are clear enough now you can get to Slidell. And they really need your help. We've got to set up a disaster relief center. So we made our way to Slidell, and their parking lot was covered in dead alligators and animals and dogs and anything you could imagine. So we got it all cleared off, cleaned out the church. It was all full of mud. This is right before you go across 11 into New Orleans. Set up the disaster relief center, but helping these folks who have lost everything then caused us to spend the next 12 years working across the nation in almost every natural disaster that we had. We became the largest transporter for FEMA for a couple of years. We built mobile home parks. And so Brandon got to spend his junior high years and his high school years in FEMA yards and directing traffic for disaster cleanup. So I just spent about 8 minutes telling you about disasters and serving people. How does that tie to real estate? If it hadn't have been for the investments that I had made in real estate, we could not have funded the ability to help a lot of people. And just as your free JCs in 1970 built the JC Arms and then subsequently the Village, and how that has helped fund the JCs and the chapter to be able to touch people's lives. An investment in real estate can free up all of your time and give you the opportunity to reach out and make a difference to a lot of folks. Let me give you a little background of where I've come from and what I've done in real estate, which I could have done, but I didn't know that that's where we were at in the slideshow. So in 1986, Kathy and I purchased our first house. In 1992, we purchased our first farm. In 1993, there was a couple smaller things that we acquired, but in 1993, we purchased our first commercial car wash. In 95, we purchased a commercial brokerage office in New Albany. 1999, we purchased, we built our first commercial mini storage warehouse facility. In the year 2000, we built our second. Also by the year 2000, we were able to close on our first deal over $1 million, which was a huge step for us. We, in the year 2001, we finally got approved to go through with some sales on two small subdivisions that we had put in. They were just small. One was a 6-unit, one was a 7 home subdivision. And we got all those approvals, had spent all the money, and had the infrastructure ready just in time for 9/11. So nobody bought a lot for 2 years, and it was a major struggle. So not everything is always a walk in the park in real estate, but we got through it and went on to, buy dozens and dozens and dozens of properties around the country. Currently have real estate in 5 states, and a couple of the current subdivisions that we are involved in down by Commercial Point. There's the Foxfire subdivision. The bottom section that was part of our land that we put in it. The Walker Point subdivision, which is a Miranda home subdivision of 100 homes, that's all ours. This is Genoa Crossing. I forget the year that I purchased it, but this was our first multi-million-dollar purchase in real estate. It was a subdivision that had set for several years, kind of had gone downhill. We had to revitalize it, started building some homes, got some lots sold, got it revitalized, and actually we just finished selling the last few lots in phase 1, which is the bottom section that's not really highlighted here. These other sections going up, that's section 2 through 4, 450 homes. We'll go in those areas, and we're getting ready to start the infrastructure on phase 2. This is a little map that I played with here a while back. I'm not even sure I've shown it to anybody until tonight, but it's also Genoa Crossing. But one of the things at the foundation level that we've been talking about being our next project is a community that we build for veterans. That's a passion that Greg has had for several years. And so I was just playing around. We want to build a community for veterans someplace. More than likely, it'll need to be in the Columbus market because of resources of not only grants, but the social services and everything that we want to put in the community. But I was playing around here how we could separate off a section and possibly do that. So I thought I'd include that slide because I came across it. We're very blessed to have been as successful as we have in real estate. But I truly believe that success is a test. It's a test of the power of humility. Because as you're more successful, more is required of you. We're expected to give more, to help more, and to do more things for other people, to help our fellow man along. So, there are a lot of people that use real estate to get very rich so that they can do whatever they feel like. But in my opinion, we are commanded to serve our fellow man. And so I truly think that if your heart's in the right place, you need to make sure that you keep your focus on what you should do with the success that you've been given. Luke says, given it will be given unto you, a good portion, packed down, firmly shaken, and overflowing will fall into your lap. The portion that you give will determine the portion that you shall receive. In Proverbs, it says, those who are gracious to the poor simply lend to the Lord, and the Lord will repay. So keep your focus. Lots of different ways to invest in real estate. I've been to every real estate seminar you can possibly imagine. We've talked over the years about even trying to put real estate. Craig and I have had talks about these seminars because you go to these seminars and most of the time you walk away laughing if you've got much experience. But there are some interesting things, but there's multitude of ways to invest in real estate. There's what they call REITs. It's real estate investment trust, where you simply buy a mutual fund of real estate, invest your money and they'll send you a return and you've got it. Then there's real estate investment groups. You can purchase with no money down, and it can happen. I'm here to tell you, 90% of the property you're going to buy is going to be bought conventionally, but it does happen. Hard money loans is something that's all over TikTok anymore, and everybody wants to talk about it, and that's fine and dandy. If you've got a rich uncle that wants to give you some money at a reasonable figure, but most, from what I understand, most hard money loans are, 12, 14%. It's high interest, and the guys that are fronting the money have a whole lot of strings attached to your life. Of course, there's conventional financing. You put 20% down, you buy the real estate, you let it do its thing. There's flipping. There's multiple reasons why I hate flipping. We can go into that at some point, but I'm not a flipper. There's the BRRRR method, which is pretty much what I do. You buy, you rehab, you rent, you refinance it, and then you repeat over and over and over. You can buy property at sheriff's sale. I bought one 2 weeks ago. I bought one 3 months ago. It took them until 2 weeks ago to get me a clean title to it. So we just closed on it in the last 2 weeks. You can buy at tax sales. Never been successful at that. But I'm sure apparently somebody does somewhere.
Called tax liens or?
Yeah, tax lien sales. Yeah. Ohio doesn't do it, but other states, many other states you can go in and buy. In Ohio, they're sold, and if you lose your property to tax, they're sold in a big bundle to big hedge funds. And then there's wholesaling. If you want to live real risky, you hear a lot about that. You can start with no money. Yeah. So you put a place in contract, whether it's commercial, residential, land, and you hope and pray that you can get it flipped to somebody with some money before it comes due. Okay, I'm going to go through a few slides here and show you some of the. So in 2017, I'm going to tell you where I'm heading. In 2017, I took my mom and my dad and my sister, who were not real estate people, but have heard me preach for 20 years at every family event about real estate. And we all sat down and I showed them this next group of slides, showing them some of the possibilities that are out there, and just, the things some of the things you hear that you can do at the real estate seminars for the no money down, and walking away with a check even though you didn't pay any. So we'll go through a few slides. This is not your typical, but it'll give you just a couple of examples of actual real deals that I've put together prior to 2017. House number one, the folks owed 110,000 on it. They were asking 135. I figured it was worth about 140. So how do you buy it? No money down, bank financing, hard money, owner financing, several options. You just have to work the deal. The deal I ended up working out is they owed 110,000 on it. I got them to keep their mortgage for 5 years. So we transferred the property in our name. We made their payments for 5 years before I finally paid the property off. Gave them their 25,000 that they had basically in equity down. But it keeps you from having to go to the bank, keeps you from having to borrow another loan, and gets you into a piece of real estate. Now, keep in mind that anybody that has a loan on a piece of real estate, there is a clause in it that's due on sale clause. So if the person's bank ever found out that you own the home, but the mortgage is in the other person's name, they're going to make you pay it off. So you know that going in, that you've got that risk, but it can be done. You don't have to go to bank. You don't have to borrow any money, and you own another piece of real estate. House number two, they owed 125,000 on it. They wanted 140. It was barely worth 125,000. But the owner was ready to lose the house. They were 3 months behind their payments. They were going to lose the home. So can you make money on a deal like this? Should you even mess with a deal like this? Can or should you worry about trying to save their credit? Can you benefit at all? Facts of the matter is, I got into this deal with no money down, obviously. I took over their payment because they owed $125,000 on the house. I agreed to let the seller pay me $13,000 over the course of 2 years in monthly payments. And for that, I would take the house off of his hands so that it would save his credit and he could go buy a car next year if he wanted to. Took over the mortgage, subsequently, paid the house off. The guy was so happy 2 years down the road when he got me paid off and his credit score had gone up because I had made his payments every month on his mortgage. And because he didn't have any of that stress on him and didn't ruin his credit, he sent me another $2,000 thank you for having purchased his home. House number three, they owed $85,000 on the house. It was valued at about $110,000. They had been burnt and taken advantage of by tenants, and they wanted out from underneath it. So how do you buy this house? Buy it, flip it, buy and rent? What do you do? The deal I was able to put together on this is, again, I had them keep their mortgage. Now keep in mind, I'm going through 5 deals out of hundreds of pieces of property. I've got 5 that I could say that I've done this on. Now I'm sure there's more out there, but it's not going to be your normal day. So took over their mortgage, paying $85,000 for the home, transferred the deed into our name. Their payment was $760 a month. And I put an employee in it at $1,000 a month who thought that was the best deal he could ever find in the world. And he wanted to purchase the house. So it was worth $110,000. He was willing to pay the $110,000 and make $1,000 a month payments. So I went back to the seller and I said, look, here's your opportunity to get $110,000 out of your house. And I know this guy's going to pay because I read his paycheck. And they said, no, it's your house. We don't want it. But at least I made that offer. So to be honest, I agreed to carry it for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, he was not able to refinance it. So I agreed to carry it another 3. And at the end of those 3, I agreed to carry it another 3. Well, as you know, when you finance a home, the majority of your money goes to interest for many, many years. So he really hasn't paid hardly very much at all. He still owes about $100,000 on this house and has paid me a lot of interest. And at some point I've paid the house off. At some point, he's going to refinance it. And again, that's gravy money. Then there's the story I have about land. The city owns some land. They wanted to get rid of these lots. So what do you do with a lot? Do you buy it to build on it? Do you buy it to flip it? Do you just buy it to play in the dirt? What do you do? Well, I got to tell you, Greg 30 Acre had at the time, a realtor that he was talking to brought this deal to him. They had 30 of these lots and they wanted out from underneath them. The city did. I ended up taking 1, not 30, because I knew better. But I took 1 for a talking point because I knew if I ever got in front of groups to give real estate advice to, all your big guys that give real estate buying seminars talk about going in with no money, coming out with a check to put in the bank. And that's exactly what happened here. So I got the land for free. Paid $1. Go to closing with $1. Came out with a check for $437. So now I own a piece of real estate, could own 30, and a check for $437. Because when you buy a piece of real estate, you get credited the property tax value for that year so that you can pay the property tax when they're due. So anyhow, the city gave us these lots. The trouble and the reason that I only took one, I don't think Greg bought any, right?
No.
Is because you still have to pay water and sewer in the city of Columbus on a vacant lot. You also have to pay property tax. So, I mean, I knew that it was going to be a cost, but I knew at some point it would sell and gave me something to talk about for several years, as my family can attest to. And then we did finally end up selling it and making some money on the deal. And then I put one commercial deal in here. Again, this was early on. It was a $600,000 deal, 4 tenants in a commercial building, was bringing in $5,900 a month. So, you know, obviously you could buy it and make money. $600,000 at the time that I actually bought this piece of property, you know, it would require $120,000 down. That's a lot of money. But the art of the deal, right? The deal's not done until it's done. By the time this thing was over, I had negotiated the deal down to $530,000, convinced the banks that it was worth a lot, which they appraised it and agreed. So if there's any overzealous prosecutors out there that are worried about my valuation on property, the bank agreed that it was worth it, to the point that they let me buy it with no money down because they knew my credit was good. And I walked away with a 15-year lease from the seller, who was also one of the tenants. So you're not going to see these kind of deals every day, but they do happen. So at the end of that slide presentation, I had my family wrapped around there and I said, what do we do now? Well, same thing to you guys. And what we do is we buy real estate. Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. It'll do the job for you. Earn your success based on service to others, not at the expense of others. So keep your heart right, keep your mind right. Don't let success cloud your judgment. Do what's right and you'll be rewarded. What I'm going to go through now is what I showed you there were old slides and old numbers and just a few pieces. So in 2017, when we sat down as a family and we decided to start Ohio Neighborhood Housing, which is ONH LLC, and Ellie had just been, or Olivia had just been born. So it was Olivia Nicole Hill was her initials, ONH, Ohio Neighborhood Housing. Anyhow, almost all of my companies have some sort of it comes back to the family. So this, in 2017, this is exactly what we did, step by step, with real people, just like each one of you sitting here tonight. And here is what we've done. And it can be done over and over and over. We formed Ohio Neighborhood Housing. There were 4 members, Mom, Dad, my sister, and myself. We each chipped in $20,000 and put $80,000 in the bank and opened a bank account. Now, there's a lot of work in finding the right pieces of real estate. We put the money in November. We flew to Jacksonville, Florida. We flew to, we searched the country. Don't ask me how we ended up picking Erie, Pennsylvania. The one thing we didn't know about Erie was that it's the snow capital of the world. But it's a great place to buy real estate if you don't find a lot of snow. December of 2017, we purchased this 13-unit building. It's not the Taj Mahal, but it's a nice building. The units were nice. 13 units. We purchased it for $152,000. That was in December. In January, we purchased our second piece for $81,845, also in the city of Erie, Pennsylvania. It's a 3-unit. There's 2 apartments up top and a grocery store down below. In April, So 6 months or 5 months later, from the first purchase, we purchased a piece on Sullivan Avenue here in Columbus, Ohio for $180,000. It was a 6-unit, all brick on the corner. June of 2019, we purchased our fourth building for $62,050, also in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's a 2-unit. There's an antique store down below, very nice, and a 3-bedroom apartment up above, mixed use property. So 18 months from the time we bought our first property and we started the company. We're setting at 400. It gives you a list, 152,000 for East Lake Street, 81,000 for 26th, 180,000 for Sullivan, 62,000 for Brown Avenue. A total of $475,982 worth of real estate and a $6,900 positive cash flow every month. So we're 18 months in, 4 properties. I go to the bank and I said, I want to refinance this group of properties into one loan. I think FC Bank had one of the mortgages at that point, but at any rate, refinance the whole thing. The bank appraised the properties at $544,000, 18 months in, leaving us a $68,017 worth of equity. So we borrowed 75% of the appraised value, which was $407,000, and took $68,000 of cash out. So our rent coming in is $6,900. The new payment is $2,916. We had $3,984 of cash flow, and $68,000 went in the bank. Between that and what we had in the bank, we gave the 4 members the $20,000 back. So 18 months in, you put 20,000 in, you got 20,000 back. Paid the partners $20,000. At that point then, we currently had $544,000 in real estate, bringing in $3,984 a month, and still had $30,000 of cash in the bank. So after we paid the partners their money back, how much money did we have invested in $500,000 worth of real estate? 0. Not a penny. We had a $407,000 debt with $574,000 worth of real estate and cash. Then along comes an offer. And here's where the fun begins, right? We paid $180,000 for the 6-unit on Sullivan Avenue. We sold it for $307,000. 3 years in. Profit of $126,913. So we distributed an additional $17,500 to each partner and applied the rest of it to the loan that we had out. So now you're an investor, you come in with 20 grand, you've received back $37,500, but you're not done. You still have 3 properties and they're still cash flowing. Then in March of 2021, we purchased a piece of property in Circleville. It's a duplex, brings in $1,500 a month. Loan payment $650, had added $850 a month cash flow to the bottom line. Another picture of it. But I told you, not everything's always rosy, right? If it was, everybody would do it. So the first property we bought, that 13-unit that wasn't the greatest, it's not the Taj Mahal, but it was making us money. There started to be bad things happen in the area. There was a shooting in front of the building. They shot out one of the windows in the process. A guy got killed. It's just, we were like, time to get rid of that building. We don't need that headache. Put it up for sale. Got an immediate offer of $185,000. $33,000 isn't a ton of money to make, but it was a quick turn and it got us out of that neighborhood. And we'd made money on the building for the last. Our other problem up in Erie is property management. There's 7 property management companies up there. Now, you guys have been, I should say, because they manage the foundation properties as well, have been very blessed to have Barkus Company. And we've been very blessed in other areas with good property management, but Erie has 7 property management companies and none of them are worth a hoot. We respect our tenants. We love our tenants like family. We take care of our tenants. We want our tenants to be proud to come home, and every property management up there failed us miserably. So we had one other property up there that turned over a lot, and Brown Avenue, that was the store and all. That's in a different part of town, great tenants, same tenants since we bought the property. We decided to keep it, but go ahead and sell 26th Street. So we put 26th Street up for sale. We paid $81,000 for it. We sold it for $124,000, which is a $43,000 profit in the 2 years we owned it, 2.5. The $407,000 loan we took out, we had put money down on it from the properties that we had sold. So when we sold 26th Street, we were able to pay that completely off, which then left us Brown Avenue free and clear. Today, November 21st, 2024, 23. These are the properties we own. The two properties, the one in Circleville and the one in Erie, valued at $350,000. We pay the bank $650 every month for Circleville, and we owe the bank $94,000. So subtract that from the total assets. We have a net asset net worth of $255,100. We currently have $54,000 in the bank. So we've got $2,600 in positive net income every month. We have $309,000 worth of real estate. The partners have all doubled their money virtually. We're just letting these properties continue to grow as time goes along. A lot of due diligence goes into picking out the right properties. A lot of people go broke. There's just as many people go broke in real estate as there is any other business. So you've got to do your due diligence. What kind of research and how to identify the right property? The number one thing, does anybody know what the number one thing is you need to look at when you're buying real estate? Yes, sir.
Location.
Location. You must consider location. Wonder where he's heard that. So what's the next thing you need to look at if you're buying real estate? Location. You must consider location. And the number 3 thing? Location. Location. You've got to consider location. Then you work the numbers. Make sure the numbers work. And leave emotion out of the equation. I don't care if it's pink. I don't care what kind of flower beds they have. I don't care. The number has to work. If the numbers work and the location is good, you can change everything else there is and make that a winning piece of property. Sometimes when you're doing your due diligence, you have to go undercover. So about 2 weeks ago, I drugged my wife to North Carolina to look at a piece of property, and she wanted to take some funny pictures because we were looking at Dollar Generals. We'd never bought a Dollar General store before. There's 7 Dollar Generals in this town. So we spent time, and when I say time, I don't mean 10 minutes, sitting in the parking lots and watching the traffic counts. We walked each of the stores. We looked at how each of the stores were being run and what they looked like inside. She took pictures of me peeking around corners and hiding behind my newspaper, watching the customers walk in and out. This is all fun. We sent it to the kids just to be silly. But long and short of it is we bought our first Dollar General store with a 15-year contract, leasing it to Dollar General. It's a double net lease. If you know the different types of leases, when you buy a house, you pay the property tax, you pay the insurance, hot water heater breaks, you fix it. On a double net lease or a triple net lease, the tenant covers all of that. So what we're responsible here is if the roof blows off, insurance would have to pay. If the parking lot needs repaid, we have to pay that. But that was our latest purchase. How do you get started? You got to read a lot. I preach on some of these Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a Robert Kiyosaki, and he's got a whole list of books. Think and Grow Rich. That's Napoleon Hill. That was written back when I was a kid. Wonderful, wonderful book. Millionaire Next Door. The 7 Habits, or Habita, the way this reads, of highly effective people. The book called Money. You're Broke Because You Want to Be, and How Successful People Think. Those are just a few of the books that I pulled out of my library that to throw in here. And then start small. Buy one rental property in an area that you're well familiar with, close to your house. And or have somebody mentor you. So my kids get sick and tired, and I'm wrapping it up, I really am. My kids get sick and tired of hearing about my widgets. But since the time when Brandon had diapers on, I have preached that if you want something that costs $1 or 100,000 or $1 million, it doesn't matter what the cost is. If I want a widget, which is what I call it, because it doesn't matter what it is. If I want a widget that costs $400 a month or $400 period, make an investment. And I prefer real estate. Let that investment make you that $400. And then the widget's free. And you've still got your 400 and you've still got an asset. So this isn't a 30-minute, okay, now we can go out and become multimillionaires story. It doesn't happen that quick. We all have a barbecue grill in the backyard, and although my wife and kids will laugh, we all think that we can whip together a really good hamburger on our grill. But if the fact is, if Jeff Ruby called us tonight and said, hey, my chef called in sick, can you come put this together? Can you come be my chef for the night? None of us are 5-star chefs. Even if that chef were to leave us his index cards and his recipe telling us what to put into the mix and how to cook the steaks, what do you suppose the experience of the diner at Jeff Ruby's would be tonight? The look on the face when you had some nasty food. So, this isn't a seminar where you walk away and tomorrow, bang, you can go buy 50 properties or $100 million. It's not going to happen. But hopefully what you'll take away from this is that anybody can do it. And if you do it right, follow the foundation's lead. I mean, the foundation's here. We took $1.5 million and turned it into $20 million in a very short period of time. 7 years, has it been? In 7 years. And we're sitting on $4 million in cash. That's what the foundation did. I just explained to you what what ONH has done. And again, those are, so you can be as big or as small as you want to in real estate. I've told my kids, Brandon has had his first rental. My daughter now has her first rental. Work your job, but if you can buy 5 pieces of real estate while you're working, when you retire, I mean, in today's numbers, you can't rent anything for $1,000, but just for easy figure, that's $5,000 a month extra income for your retirement. And by the time you retire, it's going to be 2,000 plus. So I encourage everyone. And if you want, we can pull together an investment group. So Luke says in Acts, and everything that I have shown you, that by working hard, we must help the weak. In this way, we remember the Lord, Jesus' words. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Amen. So, thank you for your time. And if there's any questions, and I live and breathe talking about real estate. So, yes, sir.
But one thing is, all of your deals, all the deals that we work with, has to be a win-win. Where the problem evolves is when you are taking advantage of somebody else. You allow people to live in their home with dignity rather than going in and saying, you're in trouble, I'm gonna figure it out from you. I'm gonna go make a good living for me, sorry, not your luck. In each one of these cases you explained, you took care of the person there. Same thing we do at the foundation level. We're in there and we're taking care of the people and we're not taking advantage of the situation. The schoolhouse is a perfect example. So that's something that I can attest to the fact that when Keavin goes to bed at night and he looks in the mirror, he knows he's done the right thing and there's not guilt there. And that, to me, is one of the most comfortable feelings I have. I'm not taking advantage. And because you don't understand that, because you weren't in the deal, you think that people are taking advantage of people. That's not the case. It's not the case. And if you go into it thinking that way, you'll find yourself doing that or walking away from the deal. It's a win-win situation every time.
Yep, it has to be. Any other questions?
The Dollar General was not the first dollar store you had. We bought one.
Yeah, when
I still got stuff in the garage out here.
so when the dollar store, the original dollar store went out of business, Greg and I went and bought what, 2 or 3 completely. So after years of trying to liquidate dollar store stuff, we finally gave thousands of dollars worth of it to the Spatial Olympics and the JCs and all, but I still have boxes too. Agritech has boxes, has some stuff out on a dollar shelf. Yeah, that stuff just keeps multiplying.
And I keep trying to give it away out in the garage, but people don't want it.
Stephanie?
I had 2 questions. One, did you sell that vacant plot? Did you sell it vacant, resell it vacant?
Yes.
And then my other question was, obviously you talked about those being special situations, but, I take that those people like were they were renting then, because they obviously didn't take on a second mortgage. If you left the mortgage with them, they're probably not in a position to take on each, you know what I'm saying? Like, were they going to rent then? Like,
So the gentleman who actually paid me the 13,000 over the course of 2 years, that particular property, he moved in with his girlfriend. He was going to lose the house. He was already planning on moving in with his girlfriend, so it didn't hurt him a bit to keep the mortgage. The situation where I sold the property to an employee, the lady and her husband that owned that had inherited a house and had already moved into that, and that's why they were renting the house they were purchasing. So again, it didn't hurt them to keep that mortgage. The family that was in the bigger house that we purchased, I'm trying to be bad. This is stuff, but it's but at any rate, she ended up moving to a different state to live with family, but she was able to purchase another home, even though she was keeping this mortgage here. Because, you know, quite frankly, just like, you know, I have a few houses. So when I go to borrow money, you know, I may already have several mortgages. As long, if you've got a mortgage that you're paying $1,000 a month on, you're getting $1,500 for it.
but I figured somebody in that situation, if you have a lot of property.
Well, you're not going, I'm here to tell you, bought a lot of real estate, and you're not going to build your empire on people that can carry the mortgage for you. You're just not.
Yeah.
You're going to run into them now and again. I think Greg has had several too. You're going to run into them, but it's not how you're going to build your portfolio. Was that it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody who joined us in person and online. We appreciate greatly you taking the time to be here with us. We will be posting this on our YouTube channel, the North Columbus JC, so keep a lookout for that. Share it with your friends and family. But for the evening, I bid you adieu. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.